All right, Marcus, go ahead. What is your vision of a community look like in your day?
It would almost look like field day when we were in school, where you would leave outside your house and there'd be all this good, positive activities going on, and people could freely go to what most spoke to them, and it would also be a boon to said community. Someone spoke earlier about breaking bread. It would look like you would come out your house and there would be an apparatus outside in the public where people could bake bread, learn to bake goods, and then we could share them among the community. If you were an individual that was into athletics, there would be a safe place where you could, monitor some children as they came and left freely, and they could explore that side and that aspect of it. Same thing with computing, same thing as anything that is a boon to a standard community, as well as something that's fun and catharsis.
That's really beautiful. Does anyone else want to either raise your hand, come off mute and share, or pop it in the chat? We'll go Ruth.
Hi, okay, well, I'm just gonna read what I wrote. I'd start my day off with solitude in prayer, meditation, and movement. Then I might check in with those around me, see what their plans for the day are, when might we meet up, and perhaps make a plan for joining someone for lunch, a cup of coffee, or walk during break from work. I'd finish my workday with another meditation and then join in community for a meal before finishing my day in quiet.
That sounds so relaxing. I love that. Anyone else want to join in? If you're just joining, what we're doing is sharing what a perfect day would look like if we lived in a community where everyone had their needs met.
I'll just kind of go off of sort of what you shared, Zandi, is like, I love to cook. And I think like in my ideal world, I would, I love creating stuff. Like I like sewing, I like cooking, I like gardening. I mostly like gardening because I like eating, which is also why I like cooking. So really everything would kind of revolve around eating. I remember when I was spending time in Taiwan with my family in like the village, like sometimes people don't have stuff to do, so they just spend a whole day like planning a meal, like you revolve everything around like making food and harvesting and treating the food that you grew with like a certain amount of care and attention. So food is a big part of my ideal community, and also something that everybody should have access to.
I think we have time for one or two more. Does anyone else want to share?
I just took a few notes. Like I like to talk with people, so just talking with people within the community and making sure that they're supported and that everybody's needs are met in terms of like their basic needs, both physically and mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, kind of like a holistic approach. But I don't really, that's about all I have for ideas.
No, that's so great. I think what I really love about like these activities is you get to share what you're good at. Everyone has these strengths and these things that they can bring to communities in mutual aid now, and also maybe in this world that we're working to. And it's really just lovely to hear how everything can work together and people can really build what they want to see. So thank you all for sharing. I think we're going to move on to the next part of our evening, but I'll pass it back to Julia.
Great. Thank you, Gandhi. Yeah, I love asking this question as kind of opening up. I think it helps us to envision like the world that we want to live in. And that's really what mutual aid is all about, is like creating that world together. If we had more time, we could go into like a longer version of that and like really dissect it, like have everybody share and even like think about on a bigger scale, like what would need to change about our community based on the things that people said, right? Like what are the things that we need to get there? So yeah, that, I've always kind of wanted to try and do like a whole session just on that question, but not today though. So thank you for being here, everybody. And I love that I just based on what people shared, we have folks here from Philly, from Massachusetts, from Chicago, from Florida, and of course from St. Louis. So even though this is hosted by St. Louis Mutual Aid, I'm really happy that it can hopefully be a resource to organizers in other places. And we would love to like stay connected and learn from you all in the future as well. So with that being said, I'm actually going to pass things over to Priyanka. Priyanka is an organizer with a group called Offers and Needs. And we were just kind of wanting to do almost like a little activity or demonstration of like what these types of exchanges could look like. How do we kind of show what mutual aid is in a very concrete way? And how do we also get people in a spirit of like offering and offering things to their community and needing things from their community? So yeah, Priyanka, thanks for being here.
Hey everyone, thank you, Julia, for that intro. Yeah, as they said, my name is Priyanka. I'm based in Chicago. I'm on the executive committee of Chicago Democratic Socialists of America, but my organizing is more so rooted in abolitionist as a presence and more so in like community care. And so it's amazing to like be here in this space now and just like have the word community come up in so many different ways. For wages, I am a facilitator, but I'm also a podcaster and producer for iHeartRadio. I'm currently working on a podcast about surveillance capitalism as it relates to communities. So that's kind of what I do. And I go on walks with my dog a lot. So in my ideal world, that's just like what I would be doing at all times, because we wouldn't have to work to sustain our joy. All right, let's see, offers and needs market. Could we do the slide share, please? And then we'll go from there. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, can y'all see the screen? Can I get like a thumbs up, nods? Okay, awesome, thank you. So a little bit about me you've just learned, but otherwise, Julia and I actually met during this training for facilitating an offers and needs market, which was hosted by this organization called the Post-Growth Institute, PGI for short. Just for the sake of time, like we won't go too much into that, but instead we'll focus more on like what an offers and needs market is. So just very, broad explanation. It's a guided process in which community members meet virtually or in person to identify and exchange their passions, knowledge, skills, resources, opportunities, and needs. So a lot of like what we were visioning with meeting up with our community members, our friends in that like that day, like that visioning practice, it's kind of like taking that and bringing it into this like more structured process of communication. So during the market, you'll be sharing your offers and your needs, and you'll also be including your location. It's amazing that we're like all over the place. So I think it's important that we, mention that in our offers and needs, and then our availability, and then the cost aspect. So I know that traditionally when you give like a good or a service, there's this like dollar sign attached to it, right? In this exercise, we're really asking that you think about other ways to exchange goods and services. So that includes bartering. That includes just like saying that you will give someone a time, like a time frame to do this for them. And feel free to make these offers and needs something that isn't necessarily like in the traditional sense. And to kind of like showcase that, Julia and I will model what this activity will look like, and then y'all will do it. I'm gonna pause there though and see if anyone has any just general questions. And I will explain what the actual activity looks like in a second, but just any general questions about the offers and needs?
Hi, Sierra here. Yes, I have a question because right now I'm just trying to figure out. I'm listening to the offers and needs section, and it definitely, I can definitely relate that back to mutual aid, and I'm connecting the dots there. But in my organization, we have like this exchange. It's called the To Ubuntu Exchange. And from my understanding, that is like a form of mutual aid, but it's exchanging time instead of exchanging money. So if someone knows how to do a service, they'll like time bank it. It's a time banking. Sorry. So I'm just trying to figure out, I guess, with the with this model, like how does this like play into it? Because when I hear it, to me this sounds like the start of what a time banking kind of model would look like versus like mutual aid. So I guess I'm just looking for like the bright line or the delineation. So if you can help me with that, that'd be great.
Definitely. I'm so glad. Marcus, did you want to add something? I saw you unmuted.
It just depends on what's about to be said next. I don't know.
So I really appreciate you bringing up time banking, because the way that I was actually introduced to the offers and needs market was through the Cola Nut Collaborative, and they are centered in time banking. Like that's what they do, just as yeah. So okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, love this. And so time banking is essentially just another component of this exercise that we're doing. And I think, like for me personally, when I think about time banking, I think about it in the context of like my availability as well as like the payment or cost, right? Because ultimately, like my time is what I am exchanging. So I wouldn't say that there's like this textbook definition, and maybe if others want to weigh in, like I'd love to hear like y'all's thoughts on that. But for me, I just think of this as like an extension of time banking. And I see that the two are related, and also that's like how I add context to this exercise.
Yeah, I want to share a little bit on this too, because I actually also got introduced to a lot of these things through being part of a local time bank here called the Cowrie Collective. And a friend of mine who is involved in the time banking world for decades, her name is Stephanie Vurick, and she lives in Madison. She shared a really great way of thinking about this, which is kind of goes back to what Priyanka was sharing. Like right now we live in a world where everything is about money. Like you got it or you don't, and your ability to get things is completely based on your whether or not you have money. And so I think part of what we're trying to do as a whole in creating a different type of system or a different type of economy is give people options and give people get people to think creatively about how they get their needs met that doesn't just revolve around money, and knowing that we still live in a world that needs money and that like people can't pay their rent with like, exposure or whatever, right? So there is still a need for that, but to also just be open and be creative. And so one of the things that she said to me was that like, really a lot of times when we give stuff, we just share it. Like we don't even necessarily look for something in return. A lot of our kind of human nature is just to give in abundance. And that really is kind of the number one, like that should be the governing way that we get things, right? And then as you kind of go down, maybe you're not able to do that. And so you could go next to trying to do something through a time bank where you're part of a community of people who are agreeing to exchange things. Maybe you could try bartering. Maybe you do need to exchange or like, swap for a different service, and then at the very bottom, or even use a alternative currency system, right? Because different communities have like their own alternative currencies as well. And then the kind of very bottom of the last resort is like, okay, I got to do this for money, So I think sort of like what I was hearing is it's not really either or like, okay, this is the only thing that you use. It's like another tool in our toolbox, and we can create room for different people to use things. And the overall idea is like to get people to think outside of just a monetary value system.
So the context that I would like to add is it's about meeting needs the best and most efficient way possible. And this is an excellent tool because a lot of people who can be useful in meeting a need don't even see it as such until we frame it this way because they don't have money. But that doesn't mean that they don't have value. So a lot of times what I like to look at is, well, what is valuable to me, or what will be valuable to this next person, and how do we exchange these things in a efficient manner? And I feel like it's basically the same concept as like, okay, everybody has time. You might not have a lot, but everybody has a little bit of time. And if you can have a system in place to where you know already, okay, this is what I can do with my time to benefit my community, that's when the boon comes.
Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. That is actually a perfect segue to the next slide, please. So it's awesome that we just kind of talked around all of this. Like, it's a lot about imagining, right? It's about like thinking what you would want to offer a friend. Like, what are gifts that you would want to share? What's something that you like to do that you would like to do with someone else? So I'll leave a little time here for people to kind of like think through this a little bit and, you know, think about what you like to do. Think about what you'd like to do with other people. That's how I explain it. That gets kind of my juices flowing about what I need, but also what I can offer.
So you want folks to think about, like, write down or think about what an actual offer and need that they would want.
Yeah, if they want to get into that, or if they just want to think in general about like their passions, like what they know about, what their skills are, opportunities that they would like to present, or vice versa, and just resources, we'll do just like another 30 seconds. And then Julia, you and I can model the activity. Okay, full disclosure, I was not actually timing it, so that might have been longer than 30 seconds or a little bit shorter. So apologies, please indulge me. I'm ready to go to the modeling slide. Are you ready, Julia? Okay, awesome. So here you can see it just restates the information of the offers or the need, the location, the urgency. And urgency can be really like, you know, it can be as vague as like urgent, right? It can be as vague as like not urgent, or it can be very specific, like I need this by April 1st. So that's all that means. And yeah, we talked about, you know, cost and payment and how that can be revisioned. Okay, and this is a Jamboard. I will just assume that some of y'all have used it and some of y'all have not used it. So we'll just go through like a quick tutorial of it. You'll see on the left-hand side, if I could get a cursor to the left-hand side, please. To the toolbar, yep. And then you'll use the stickies. So if you click on the sticky note icon, and that'll take you to, that'll have like a sticky note pop up, and then you'll write, or you'll type, excuse me, you'll type either an offer or a need, the location, urgency, cost / payment. And then also, because this is, you know, online, please include your name and then your preferred way of being contacted. Awesome.
And just to let people know, we do have like a offers and needs board that we like use in St. Louis here. And so if you're okay with it, you know, if you just want to share it in this group, let us know. But if you, anybody that from this board, we're going to kind of translate the offers and needs into the board that we use locally, so that like people can kind of follow up later as well. So just kind of putting that out there. In order to do that, we need your email address. So if you're okay sharing your email address, but yeah, like Bianca shared, you could also just share whatever is the best contact method for you.
So do we
Awesome.
just put the stuff that we can offer in the chat, and then as well as the needs, or is there a separate link to edit that thingy?
There's a separate link, so you can do it directly from your phone or whatever. But if you feel more comfortable putting it in the chat, then one of the facilitators will put it in there for you, so it'll show up on the screen.
Sorry for my confusion. So you're saying the chat that you just, the link that you just posted, Julia, is where we actually can.
No, we haven't posted the link yet, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there we go. That's the one.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna start populating my offers and needs.
What if your need is different? Like, now that I'm seeing kind of where this conversation is going, and I'm sorry I was late. If I had a need, it would be more of support. I am building a business. I am supporting a lot of other people financially. So I don't need money. I don't need that, but I need the support of STL Mutual Aid to push the work that I'm doing forward, whether that's social media, through emails, things like that. So I don't know how this would fit here, and then how it would connect to someone even being willing to support that need. That's something I've been trying to figure out for 2 years. So how would you navigate that?
Thank you for that question. I think that it would fit in perfectly. So I would say that what I'm hearing is a need for support, right? And so I'll just, if you don't mind, I can just do it on a sticky note, if that's okay with you, Carmen, just so we can walk through it together.
Okay. I just really want to understand how this works, because if you can figure this out, this is a win for Mutual Aid.
So yeah, I would put my need is support, and I would say that it's urgent, and I would say that as payment, I could maybe just offer I don't know, it doesn't have to be cash, right? It can be thought partnership as payment, or it can be just exchanging services, exchanging contacts.
Yeah,
And that's
I do
it.
all of those things. I offer all of that, and I offer money, but the end result never happens. So I really want to know how a free thing that I need, and even when you offer money, how does that turn into getting somebody to want to support you?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting parts of this exercise is that if you are specific about what it is you need, then it's very possible that there's someone in this room that has that can help you with that need. And we just don't know until we see it on the Jamboard. So I would say if there's a very specific part of the support that you need, I think you mentioned that you maybe this group can support you, right? And so how would that look? Would you like us to share social media posts? Would you like us to bump newsletters? That's just an example of what you could say as a need. And then, I might see it and I could be oh, I will post their work. This is just a hypothetical. I'll post that they have a workshop coming up on my social media, and I will do it for free, because that's I don't need payment for that. So that's like an example of how I've seen something like what you're describing happen in real time. Okay, Julia, I see that you have populated a lot. So I'm
Started
looking.
with one of mine and then I just added like the ones people were talking about. So I added some for Marcus.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so needs a house sitter, dog sitter for my spouse and I out of town. Okay. If I was in Chicago, or if this is in Chicago, I would say yes. For free. I don't like, I have a dog too. Yeah, this is awesome. Okay, so
I
we'll
just need to say that Julia's actually done that for me.
One of the outcomes of mutual aid. It was actually a great exchange because they were on vacation and I went, like, I took a staycation at their house and was like hanging out with their dog, but I also got to like be at their house and it was a great time. So
Yeah, that's perfect. I hear that you got a staycation and I hear that they received support. So yeah, we'll just segue into populating the Jamboard, and I will share the link again in the chat. So you'll have it. And then, yeah, just if there's like a question, feel free to unmute or DM us if you're more comfortable with that, or just put it in the chat.
Got a lot of work, a lot of help I need with Ruth.
Say that again.
I got a lot I need help with, Ruth. Those are all my weaknesses.
Yeah, I would help you with that, Marcus. I can, I mean, on a very basic level, but I have my own business that I run, and I've, I do bookkeeping and marketing for myself, and I love teaching people what I do. I mean, how I've done it.
We'll reach out.
Yeah. Zandy, I may take you up on that when I get a new bike.
Do you walk far to drop that stuff off? Are you traveling far to drop that stuff off? Are you traveling far to drop that stuff?
Right there.
Okay. Okay, I'm just young and able-bodied.
Oh, no, I said right down there. I think so.
No, I appreciate you though.
Oh, all right.
How are folks feeling? Do we want more time? Do we think that we're at a good pausing point?
I am putting Tyra's in, but other than that, I'm good. Has everybody had a chance to kind of like look or add something?
Julia, by the way, could you add my contact information? I'm sorry. Did you
Oh
add
yeah, I
that?
added it. Mhm.
Okay, yep, I see it. Thank you.
This is cool. I like seeing it happen in real time.
Oh my gosh, Rachel. Your message, I'm gonna uplift it. I'm not participating only because I've been part of 2 offers in New Market. Okay, good, nice. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Julia, I think I probably should have stated what my degree is in. That probably would have helped.
Oh yeah, I can add that in there.
Okay, thanks.
What is it?
Oh, HR development and training. So facilitating training.
Gotcha. I don't know if that looks okay. Carmen, one thing I would, I saw your message in the chat too, and that's totally fair. Like anyone, one of the most important things about any type of exchange is consent. So, you know, like consent is something that is not usually part of our economic exchanges, but it's something that should be part of, you know, our ideal world. So, but Carmen, one thing I would say maybe is like, that if you, even if you don't feel like putting, or you're not comfortable with putting your own on there, you should feel free to take people up on their offers. You know what I'm saying? Like people are putting them up there. So if there's something you wanted to follow up on, this would be a good place to try.
I understand, like I'm big, I'm gonna look at the jam board and I'm going to support the needs. But again, without going back into what I said, like I named that openly, it's important that if I put myself back out here again, that like this is actually happening. Like even when I do my event on the 4th, I'm speaking to these type of things. Like, it is so hard to put what you need out there and to be bold with it and to ask for help and to be constantly shut down and denied access, but to give of yourself the way that you do. So I'm definitely going to be pulling up and supporting some of these needs and giving. But I want to see how this works on the back end before I put myself out here again. It's just been too much pain.
Totally. I think we're ready to move on for now.
Yeah. Carmen, thank you for naming what you did. That's definitely one of the frustrations with mutual aid for sure. How are folks feeling? Do people resonate with that? And how did this activity feel? Are there like any concerns? Are there any matches? Do people see something that might work?
For myself, I put both of my things are related to riding bikes, although there's probably more I could have put on there, but it's kind of fun to think about. I have a certain amount of knowledge about bikes and I can offer some of it, but then I also need more of it. And so how can I kind of fit in that dynamic?
Nice.
Any other thoughts or reflections before we move on? All right. Well, we encourage you, you have the link. You're more than welcome to follow up with folks. We will share also in our own way. And so yeah, and I would love to see some matches happen as well. So if you do take somebody up on an offer, it would be really great to kind of like hear about it and how it went and get feedback, because that's another thing that often doesn't happen, is like the follow-up. Yeah, okay, so great. So this was just kind of, thank you so much, Priyanka, for facilitating us through this. Like, I don't know if you mentioned this, but this is like part of a very small, like kind of preview of a full offers and needs market, which can be like 1 or 2 hours long. They can be virtual, they can be in person, and this is something that I think that like St. Louis Mutual Aid, we could experiment with and like try and do in real time, like together. So thank you for introducing us to this resource. And I did post the website as well to offers and needs market if you like want to learn more, if you want to reach out. Priyanka, if you're open to like people reaching out about offers and needs stuff. Yeah, Rachel, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say there's an aspect of the offers and needs market that I think is not really coming through at this particular moment, but that I have experienced, and I just wanted to share that. So if you are doing this within your actual community with people that you know, or maybe are just getting to know or live near, there is like a relational aspect and community building aspect of this that goes beyond just the needs and wants. And it's like I did this within DSA, my local DSA chapter, and most of us just know each other through the work that we do, but we don't know each other as full people. And by doing this, we got to know each other as like full human beings, all of our different interests, and we're building like more friendships than we had before. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So many possibilities there.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that is really, really important. And it's hard to do in a virtual setting as well. So, we're all like adjusting to these different ways of connecting, but it's great that we can connect with people from all over as well. So with that, I'm going to kind of transition us into more of the sort of mutual aid piece. And again, this was just kind of a tool. It's a resource. It's a way of doing mutual aid. It's not the only way. And so we are going to talk a little bit about like, what is mutual aid? What's our understanding of it? What does it look like here in St. Louis? And then kind of round out tonight with like some different next steps or ways to get involved. So Zandi, do you mind sharing the other slides? Great. Okay, so this slide here, this is kind of what I wanted to sort of start with. Does somebody mind reading this quote on here from Miriam Cabo?
I'll do it. Mutual aid is a practice in politics that emphasizes solidarity rather than charity. We recognize our well-being, health, and dignity, and we recognize our well-being, health, and dignity, and are all bound up within each other. That is so weird.
I think it's supposed to say that they're all bound up in each other, not that we are all bound up in each other. Yeah. But I love this quote because I think it really just sort of captures the spirit of mutual aid, and there's all these other kind of values and things that go with it too. So aside from like what's already on here or anything that resonates with you, what do other people think of when they think of mutual aid? Like, how would you describe it to somebody?
I always say that people helping people and not making excuses. I always say that mutual aid is the best and most direct way to solve any community or individual problem.
I say that mutual aid is a radical expression of love and interconnectedness. It is the best intersection to meet strangers and radically transform their lives by giving them access to things that the system has traditionally told them no to.
I describe mutual aid as people helping people, neighbors helping neighbors. And I know personally for me, it is also about building community outside of the community that I live in. You know, it's one of the greatest things I get from mutual aid is that it's expanding my community. So it's giving me a broader view of all the people around me in my larger community. And I get a huge gift out of that. But it's really, you know, if you have something that you can help someone with, and if they have something, and it's not an even exchange, it's just, if you have a strength, you get to offer that strength to others. And if you have a need, you get to ask for that need to be met.
Love that.
And if it's okay, I'd like to speak on that as well. Mutual aid to me, when you're in need and someone supports you, or individuals support you, and you in turn of wanting to give back in whatever way possible that you can, just learning how to be and work collectively as a group, learning how to work collectively as a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, building, I like to think of it as like building a muscle, like it's our collective muscle, and this is doing it together. This is how we kind of strengthen that. Anybody else? Rachel, you said horizontal rather than top-down approach of charity, plus aiming to undermine the systems that are supporting and creating the problems and not just ameliorating them. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, we can share a few of things that have come up in last sessions. If you want to go to the next slide here, a lot of it is really similar to what people are saying. Cooperation, a form of political participation, focusing on relationships is something I heard a lot about, of like being able to grow our relationships, to meet people we never would have met. I definitely resonate with what Ruth was saying, is that like mutual aid, doing mutual aid, especially during COVID when people are so isolated from each other, really grew my community and allowed me to like feel really close to so many people I never would have met otherwise. Mutual, it goes both ways, that this is ultimately a resistance to systemic oppression. We're trying to build a new system, and we are looking for, radical transformation, both of ourselves and of our environment. So those are all, I feel like I heard, all of that in what you were saying, and I hope that we can take some of the tidbits that you all shared and kind of incorporate it into this for the next one too. You go to the next one here. So historical examples of mutual aid, and this is again where we would love to hear from you all of like, a lot of people who are on this call are already part of mutual aid groups, so that's amazing. But if you are inspired by a particular example, we would love to hear that. So we put some on here. Obviously, it's important to kind of note that indigenous people all over the world really have been using mutual aid, doing mutual aid, far longer than mutual aid was even a word, right? I think the term came around like the 1800s or something like that, but people have been doing this as a practice for much longer. And there are many people who do this on a daily basis that don't use the term mutual aid or don't call it mutual aid. And similarly, in sort of more modern history, the Black Power and Civil Rights movements both have used mutual aid heavily. So a lot of people know the Black Panther Party as being, sort of like self-defense and the berets and the image and the resistance. But what's often kind of hidden or not as emphasized about the Black Panther activity is the free breakfast program, the free clinics, their schools, all of these things that they did in the community that gained them the trust of the people and allowed for them to grow towards these other goals that they had in mind. Similarly, a lot of people know about the Montgomery Bus Boycott, but people don't think about the fact that in order for a boycott to work, you also need people to still be able to get around. So there were a lot of mutual aid groups during the Montgomery Bus Boycott, like basically carpooling, sharing rides, making sure people could get to work without the bus. Of course, mutual aid societies, are used by pretty much every single immigrant group in the US, as well as by formerly enslaved Africans. And a lot of people don't really know that like mutual aid was sort of the pre-version of insurance. So before insurance existed in the United States, there were often mutual aid societies, and these were groups of people often in a community together who would pool their funds and have like an emergency fund, or like if somebody passed away, wanted to make sure they could take care of their family or make sure that they had an opportunity to be buried and to be remembered properly. And so what we now think of like as an insurance company at one point was essentially a society of people, a group of people supporting each other, often because they were excluded from the dominant society or culture. And so there's that piece of it. There's the Free African Society of Philadelphia, which actually our Philly person here, Sierra, maybe you could share a little bit about the Free African Society if you have any tidbits that you know about. Or if you're not able to unmute, that's okay.
I'm sorry,
That's okay. Are you here? Oh, her connection is out. Okay, well, I'll share a little bit, and if she comes back, we can have her share. But just from like the Google research I did, one of the really cool things about the Free African Society, they were almost like a precursor to the AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church. But they actually they were existed, for people who had been recently freed from slavery, and they kind of created this society to support each other. So they were opening schools, they were basically doing everything that they needed to support and to kind of survive. But during the yellow fever epidemic of 1793, which we're now all very familiar with pandemics, they actually they became really well known for training nurses and aides to support during that time as well, and dispatching them all around Philadelphia. So yeah, those are just kind of like brief highlights. You can find many other examples that I did not list. So I would love to hear from anybody here about any examples that you're aware of that you feel like you draw inspiration from, or yeah, just like things that you're a part of now even.
So what mostly inspires me is the activism, the civil rights movements, even, you know, a lot of what made me as an organizer in that realm was actually what people who were differently sexually orientated started so that they could survive in a society that was not ready for them. I often tell people that the first person to throw a brick at a cop was actually a differently sexually identifying person. And that's a lot of what makes me who I am today. I would also like to point at historical Black colleges. In my mind, that's a form of mutual aid. Most of these HBCUs were started by Caucasians because they had the means to see these educational systems, and they understood that that was a way for them to aid the progression of Black people. Here's to the sighted friends.
Yes, love it. I like what you said about doing, I forget how you said it, but it was like existing in a society that is not prepared for you. It's not ready for your existence. Anyone else? Anyone else have other inspirations?
I was inspired by Kendra. Like, my story is like out there about mutual aid. I quit a job. I was depressed. I was in crisis, and I saw a white woman out there slanging boxes in a dress. And it just activated me to realize that we could do so much more in the midst of Mike Brown, because I wasn't out there in them streets like everybody else. I look at protesting and doing this thing a different way. I saw an opportunity to radically reimagine with white folks how we can love, how I'm a Christian, how we can really tear down the walls of the church and do what we needed to do to build together collectively. So my love for mutual aid came right here from the entity that was created with Julia and other women when COVID hit, and women and men, and they was just like, fuck, what are we gonna do? Excuse the curse word. So my inspiration came right from the trenches of one of the women that's on this phone, and my fight and to build the community hub and to build the dream is so that we all can win, so that we all can dream, so that we can all share time, talent, and treasure without feeling like we have to continue to be oppressed, even within our own communities. So yeah, I'm gonna stop with my tangent, but you're the reason why I'm doing this, Julia. Like you the reason. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. So it wouldn't have happened had you not made a bold decision. So you're my why.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback and then be quiet. Mutual aid in terms of my lifestyle being alive was 100% theory until I ran into some powerful people that are on this call, which would be Carmen and which would be Julia, people that pulled up for me in ways that I'd only been pulling up for people, or people that I've taught how to serve community move. So that's kind of what did it for me, where I was like, okay, these are two people who are a lot different than me, but when it comes down to the actual making it a reality, they move in a way that is conducive to this thing existing. And that's what does it for me. That's what sustains me.
Carmen, I definitely echo everything that you said back to you as well, just feeling inspired. I feel inspired by people who show up for St. Louis Mutual Aid all the time. And something you say a lot that I think is really powerful is this idea of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And for each of these groups, you know, like, especially like, you know, the Black Panthers, or these, we tend to romanticize them in history, or we like look at like, okay, here's this amazing leader, or this person that we all know about. But every person, for all of those leaders, there were thousands of like, you know, now nameless people who were just ordinary people doing what they could. And so I like to think of, you know, what we're doing in St. Louis and what you all are doing everywhere you are as like, we are those people, you know what I mean? Like, we might not necessarily be like written down in history or whatever, but you know, whenever things were needed in our community, we were the ones who showed up. So I think that that's just really important to remember, that this is not something that requires a certain amount of, you know, like you don't have to have a degree, or you don't have to like have a certain amount of qualification or whatever. All you need to do is care and show up. So. Right. Well, I'm feeling inspired. Any other examples that you want to share before we move on? All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is just kind of our values. And again, this is just kind of like an evolving thing. It's obviously, it's just a list of stuff. Like when we first came up with this list, we were outside in 4th of July in 2020, and it was like stupid hot, and we were just like writing stuff on a piece of paper, like on a wall. So this was the stuff that came out of that piece of paper on the wall. But I think it does kind of capture the spirit of like what our values are. Does anybody want to read, like we can read these together? Yeah, maybe, I don't know how to do this, like read the first half, someone?
I'll help you.
Okay.
Cooperation and solidarity, dignity, collective leadership, trust, believing people know what they need, opportunities for beneficiaries to become supporters. Everyone is worthy of deserving of everything they need, and performing a personal relationship, not a job.
Keep going.
Okay.
You're doing so great.
Focus on system failures rather than blaming individuals. It's the system that creates problems. Transparency, open meetings and platforms for people to join in. Humility and willingness to accept feedback. Long-term commitment, self-determination, transformation, not here for reform, minor changes or half measures. We want radically changed societies. No judgment of folks' status or no hierarchy.
Carmen, if you don't mind sharing, like, how did you feel reading that list? Because I feel like you did.
Oh, like that's my love language. That like this is the community hub. Like this is radical. Like this is like loving people. Like this is what I'm doing, and I'm not gonna change. Yeah. So I felt empowered. I don't know about nobody else.
How do other people feel looking at this list?
Yes, more. Yes.
I think what I love about this list is it really, it reminds me of what I'm trying to live up to, because it's, I don't want to use the word fail, but these are challenges sometimes. These don't come easily, some of these, being transparent, being humble and willing to accept feedback, being committed on the long term, being here to transform, not reform, all of those things that it's easy to fall back into old habits. It's easy to fall back into old thinking. And so it's, I love these values because it's a real laundry list of, what I'm trying to live, what I'm learning how to live up to.
Yeah, I love that. I feel the same way. I think sometimes this list can be intimidating because it's like, oh my God, I like have to be this perfect. Like I have to, like uphold all these values all the time. And it's good. It's really important to have that like place that we're going to, and like, this is what we're striving for. This is what we're working towards, as individuals and together. And it's also like, I think it's really important to, like you said, understand that like this is a journey, and that this is why we need to be in it a long term, because it doesn't come easily, and it's not always like, this is not built into the world that we currently live in at all. Any other thoughts or reflections?
I think Ruth just said it, like, it's a constant battle because it is long-term and mutual aid is hard. And to dismantle yourself, like, again, as I stand on the stage, like giving y'all tidbits of what I'm gonna say on March 4th, this was an ugly, dirty ass mess. To have to dismantle and like look at yourself and look, okay, am I being humble? Am I being transparent? Am I moving in authenticity? Am I really looking at gifts and needs or whatever that thing was, and like really understanding what it is to be able to give my time, my talent, my treasure to help? Am I really creating a system of inclusiveness? That's something that I have to do every day, all day. You're not by yourself, Ms. Ruth, but this is the work of mutual aid. So even as I said, do I want to put my stuff back out there? I went on and put it on the jam board. I'm gonna give it another try because I have to, because this is long term. It's gonna take time for people to understand what it is to build a relationship and to stick to the values of who we said we are. I'm done.
Yes, mic drop, well said. I love it. Actually, Marcus, I was going to kind of pass it to you to move us forward on what does all this look like for you in your life? Like, I really want you to kind of like make it real for us and talk about what this really looks like.
Thing that I am, that most people would aspire to be or that is proud of, is because another human being looked at me and said, you know what? I'm going to aid you. I'm going to remove a barrier. I'm going to give you a resource. I'm going to make it so that it's not as difficult as society would have it be for someone like you. So it's instrumental in my character, in the way that I move, in the way that I grow. It's everything that I am. Do I move on to the things that are happening, or do I start with me personally?
Yeah, either way, whatever you feel called to share.
So I look at it like this. It is my duty to be the adult that I needed when I was a child. And as an adult, it is my duty to be the adult that I needed when I was building everything. So it comes down to me saying, okay, there's an easy way to do it, and there's a hard way to do it, and there's a right way to do it. So my task is to be open with everything that I've learned, trying to build this system before I knew others were helping me. A lot of the kinks that people run into is because there's not a lot. I'm not going to say there's not a lot of practice, but there's a interim between the theory and the practice. And I think that's what I most have to offer to a mutual aid organization, is to make these things real. I started by saying, okay, what do I do? What do I have to offer a community? Well, I like to call myself a professional poverty fighter. So what does that mean? That means I need to identify what I'm doing. And one of my tenets is poverty comes from untreated generational trauma. So we start with the youth. I have a lot of youth work that I'm doing. It's gonna kick into high gear again, in a couple of months here because the weather's breaking. We have a studio that we're getting ready to drop so people can record. We have this 4K digital camera so we can have people make movies or whatever, what have you. But the tenet is to get these kids something to do so they can stay out of trouble. We're also going to kick back up the youth work program. So again, these kids can have a place where they can go, earn a couple dollars, meet their own needs, get a little education, get a little love, a meal, or whatever it may take that the community or their parents may not be providing, so that they don't have to make terrible decisions because they're not really equipped to go out and get those things to take care of themselves. As far as an adult, poverty generally comes from your expenses and what it costs to survive and your inability to financially keep up with it. So that is why we do a food share at this art house. Poverty is calculated by how much of your income you spend on food. So if we can drop somebody's food bill, and if we can get them some financial literacy, and if we can enhance their income, then we stand a fighting chance to reshape this community. When Martin Luther King marched to Birmingham, that was supported by strong family structure. So we have to get there again. And that does not necessarily mean a mother or father. It means that a community is your family. So it's my duty to show people in action, these are problems, I'm identifying them, I'm tackling them one by one. One of the main tenets of the Unhoused Union is that we operate an emergency response team when it gets too hot, when it gets too cold. It's all about showing people that we're here for them and being consistent, so that then they ask, well, dang, what is it you're doing and why? And then we come in and we explain what mutual aid is, and then we see how they can aid, and we activate people. The trust and the consistency also comes with me trusting that you people, every person that I come across has something to offer. It doesn't matter whether you have money or not. So mutual aid is being the change you want to be, educating those, and then supporting people in any way that you can to meet their goals. Should I explain?
No, you did great. I mean, anybody have thoughts or reactions or questions for Marcus? And I'd also love to hear, Carmen, for you to share like what the community hub is about and like how do you see it as part of mutual aid? But yeah, anybody have a thought or reaction for Marcus?
Marcus, I love what you said about like there's the theory out there, but we have to practice the practice. And it's kind of what everyone else was saying with these values of like continuing to kind of work up to them and live up to them. But it's just like doing the work is how you learn those values, how to live up to those values.
This is the first time like I don't want to come behind Marcus. Usually I am really good at coming behind Marcus. He is a phenomenal leader in mutual aid, and he defines what it is to shift his trajectory, not only for himself, but for the people that are following him and that are also coming out of crisis behind him. And he's doing it through critical, and I do mean critical, relationship building. And that is what's happening in mutual aid right now. From Marcus's work to the community hub. The community hub, it's very, very small. It's very, very intimate. And yes, we meet everyday needs. We talk every day. The women and the men are in crisis, and we navigate those crises one by one by one. We're getting to know each other's children. We're going to graduations. We cook together. We till the yard together. We have Easter egg hunts together. People donate furniture. We give it back out. Whatever is needed to provide that wraparound support, we are doing. And what's happening is there's internal therapy, there's internal coaching. People like Kaya, she won't be offended, like that is in Oregon, is realizing that she can walk into her gifting of being an artist, although she thinks that she failed at being an artist. It took this long to finally get a breakthrough that you are an amazing artist and walk into your passion of being an artist. And it's because we're in this hub and we're in this close nexus that people are taking off their mask and they're being vulnerable and they're being transparent. And it is something that an outsider wouldn't understand and wouldn't be able to tap into and give because they don't have the relationship piece. But it is a very open and welcoming environment, but we are getting ready to have a tea party. We're getting ready to have another Easter egg hunt. We're getting ready to have a makeup and purse party and a spa day because these women have never been to the spa. They've never learned how to wear makeup. They never done how to do any of those things. And, you know, they have their own other challenges. And because we're authentic and our mask is off, we can talk about those things. And now we're learning how to be women, men, and powerful and empowered in a safe way. And it's the community hub of St. Louis Mutual Aid. And it started after meeting a white girl, slanging boxes, sweating in a dress, when Julia and her friends got tired of people having to beg people for stuff. Relationships is a choice. So sometimes for me, I came into mutual aid as a stranger and I got helped by a stranger. I'm not going to tell a whole oppressive, offensive story to somebody to get help. You're either going to help or you're not. We're mutual aid. We're just the community hub of it. So that's what we do.
Love it. Love, love, love. I love what you were sharing is like, I could see it. I mean, both because I know the people, but also like you picture it, you know, like being at each other's graduations and like these everyday things that, you know, are very small, but matter so much to somebody who hasn't had that support before. So I'd love to hear from other people of just like, what's your mutual aid look like? Like, what do you do? I'm especially curious about the folks in other places. Like, what does your mutual aid look like and what does it mean kind of in your life? Don't be shy. Priyanka, oh, there you are. Go ahead, Sierra. I was wanting to hear from you earlier, so this is perfect.
Yeah, Sierra, WWC, Women's Working Collective. Mutual aid right now really, really lives online. So we're in different places. There's some of us, there's three of us, and there's one of us that's not in Philadelphia. And there are two of us in Philadelphia, but one of us has like her own full-time practice, and she doesn't have like a lot of flexibility in her schedule. And neither of the other two are over mutual aid. I'm like the only person over mutual aid. So we're really a team of three. And like really what I'm focusing on is building out that community aspect that you all have done like such a really, really amazing job with. And so I'm making it my business to go out in community and to help to support community, like whether it's a grassroots organization or it's a neighborhood action committee or some subdivision of that organization, or, you know, anything that's going on where I can be supportive so that I can like further connect, but then also let folks know what's happening over here in mutual aid. So right now, the Mutual Aid with Women is Working Collective really lives online. And the mutual aid is very much, it's much more monetary. It's more monetary than anything else. So it's monetary support if there's an emergency need, or if there is like a food need, or if there's you know, a need for therapy or some holistic wellness service. And like that's where the mutual aid, we call them like mutual aid grants, kind of go to. And we fundraise on our platforms to be able to provide like this mutual aid support. So it's not like, it's not direct to, it's not from like, it's not a one-to-one from the individuals giving directly to the people receiving, and it's not in kind, any in-kind services exchange, because again, that's our two Ubuntu time banking platform where that is done. But there is a need and a want from me to make this, to build this out more. And I don't know if I saw it here at STL or if it was a Rocky Mountain Mutual Aid Network where I saw there are like different ways to do this, where like there's a helper level and a contributor level, and there are ways to like build this out to make it more like community inclusive. And I want to learn how to do that and figure this out and make it more than just we're getting in money and we're giving out money, because I feel like there's a lot more that this could be than what it is right now.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and some of the struggles as well. One of my favorite things about mutual aid is how much it evolves. Like what we looked like a year ago, it looks totally different than what we looked like the year before that, looks totally different than what we look like now. And so I think that, you know, like for us, there were times, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, where our main focus was just exchanging money and raising money and giving money. And we learned so much from that experience that then allowed us to kind of not to move away from that, because it's still a big part of what we do and it's still a part of how we connect with people, but to grow it and to like expand in all of these different areas as well. And so I think having that foundation is important, and not to, you know, everything that you do is important. And it's like, it's so soul crushing to like be living in this world that like, if you're doing like one little thing, you know, like that, it's like, it's worth celebrating. So I definitely want to like celebrate and encourage and just, you know, be really, I'm excited about everything that you're doing as well. So yeah, I really look forward to kind of connecting more and being able to share some of our journey with you and just like support each other as well. That's what we want this space to be. So I'm glad that you're here. So we're coming up on time, which I'm kind of sad about. I think this has been an amazing conversation. I just kind of want to round things out with a couple of like ways to get involved. Most of the folks here are already doing these things or have already been plugged into these things, but a couple of next steps. One is the Offers and Needs board. If you click on that link, it'll just kind of show you, you know, essentially the same kind of idea of the Jam board, just in a more particularly organized way. And this is a way for us in St. Louis, although I think you could just put it from anywhere, to carry on some of the specific offers and needs from today. So you can get it from the Jam board. You can also get it from here, and we'll help you with like transferring. The second one, again, most people here have done this already, but like if you want to be more formally involved in St. Louis Mutual Aid, even if you're not in St. Louis, we would love for you to fill out this form, and I will put the link in the chat. But this is like our general form of like, you know, basically everybody that comes into the network, we ask them the same questions. And it's our way of, oh, that's not it. It's our way of organizing our data. And something that I think is really important about this forum, but just stuff in general, is like, we don't distinguish between helpers and receivers. Like, we don't say, okay, I'm going to be a volunteer, I'm going to be whatever. And that's something that's very fundamental to how we organize. It's like everybody gets the same questions, all the stuff you need, all the stuff you can offer. And so we give room for people who are coming in, you know, looking to just be a volunteer, to also ask for things that they need. And we also ask the same of people who are coming in needing support, to open their, you know, open their mind to being able to offer something as well. And this kind of gives people that agency and that feel like they're, you know, self-determination. And it also helps us to like not have this division in the organization of like people who help and people who receive. And so if you do fill out this form, at the bottom, there's like anything else you need to add, just mention that you were here tonight so that we can kind of know who those folks are and make sure that we follow up with you. Yes, the links are on, this Google presentation on the slide. Yeah. And Zandi, if you could do me a favor and just kind of like post those individual links as well as I'm talking about them, that would be super helpful.
I don't think I can do that, unfortunately, with the screen
Oh,
share.
because you're on the screen share. Okay, that's fine. I got you. So let me post this one. Okay, so this is the Offers and Needs board. And this is the Airtable. And the third thing is volunteering. This is really mostly if you're in the St. Louis area, but we do have a virtual volunteer opportunity for Hotline Calls. So every Saturday from 2 to 4, Zandi is one of our coordinators. We get on Zoom and we make phone calls, and we basically are just answering phone, you know, messages that we get from people. We're following up with them about, you know, if we have funds to send them, we get to call them and tell them that. So that's exciting. So that's actually, you can do that from anywhere if you want to help us out and have some time on your Saturday afternoons. And if you're local and you want to help make food deliveries, there's a way to do that as well. And then the last thing, again, is kind of more so for local folks, but we do have a mutual aid retreat coming up on March 12th, which is next Saturday. and it's going to be our first in-person thing in a while. So I'm very excited to just like see people again. We may have a virtual component, I'm not sure yet, but anyway, if you're in town and if you're here and you want to participate, we'd love to have you. So yeah, those are our kind of next steps, our action items. And does anybody have questions about those? All right. No questions. So I would love to just kind of round things out tonight. I know it's 8 o'clock and want to be respectful of everybody's time, but just to, if a couple people can just share, you know, something they appreciated about this session or something they learned, just a couple people, and then we can say goodnight.
Learn to do it afraid and be a person of second, third, and fourth chances.
Say for me, I appreciated just kind of going back to the basics. Like, I think about mutual aid all the time. I'm part of mutual aid. It's sort of like in my brain constantly, but it has been a long time since I've like taken the time to kind of go back to this, like, what is mutual aid and why do I do it? And so it feels very grounding to do that together, especially with many of you who we've already been in community with, as well as new people. So I really appreciated that.
And I really appreciate this helping me to come out of my shell a little bit more and not be so shy, as well as just, you know, learning all that I can about mutual aid and community building.
Anyone or one more person?
I just really appreciate people still showing up and you know, just keep showing up. Thanks.
I appreciated what Marcus and Carmen were sharing about their experience, and also that they, especially Carmen, got a little vulnerable and was like sharing some of struggles that she goes through. And yeah, it's just, thank you for keeping it real. I appreciate that.
I appreciate Zandi and Priyanka and Marcus as well, for co-organizing, co-hosting, helping with the agenda. Priyanka especially, just like being willing to show up for us, even though you literally never met any of us. So that's like really beautiful. Yeah, and I appreciate everybody who's here. You know, this was a kind of an intimate session, and I think that was actually really great. So I have love getting a chance to hear everybody's voices. So yeah.
I say one more thing. I've been waiting on somebody to say Priyanka's name, so I didn't tear it up, baby. That is beautiful. Oh my God, I've been waiting on somebody to do that for me. Like, come on, thank you, thumbs up. Like, come on, y'all didn't know how to pronounce that. Like, I've been waiting on that. That is beautiful. What do you mean, girl?
It's Sanskrit for lovely. That's like the overall, yeah.
Lovely, girl. I already linked in you and tried to like lurk to figure out who you was. Now I know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, we hope you come back. Please don't leave us. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night. Love you all and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.